The first time I showed my family the beach house I was 26. I'd just purchased it, a 1960s mid-century modern perched on 2 acres of prime beachfront property in Malibu. Paid $840,000 for it, which was every dollar I'd saved working 80-hour weeks as a junior architect at a prestigious firm in Los Angeles. The seller was elderly, wanted a quick sale, and I'd gotten lucky with timing. The house was original everything. Wood paneling, vintage fixtures, Terrazzo floors that hadn't been touched since 1967. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. The bones were incredible, but aesthetically, it was a time capsule. My sister Vanessa took one look and laughed. "You paid how much for this?" $840,000. For this. She gestured at the wood-paneled walls, the vintage kitchen with turquoise cabinets. "Rachel, this is a teardown. You got scammed." Mom walked through slowly, her face pinched. "Honey, I don't understand. Why would you buy something so dated?" "The architecture is significant," I explained. "It's a documented example of mid-century coastal modernism. And the location. The location is the only thing this place has going for it," Vanessa interrupted. "Everything inside is worthless. You'd have to gut it completely." Dad examined the vintage light fixtures. "These don't even work properly. How much will renovations cost?" "I'm not renovating," I said. "I'm restoring. There's a difference." Vanessa snorted. "Sure, Rachel. Throw good money after bad. This is why you're still single. Terrible decision-making." They left after 20 minutes. Didn't stay for the sunset I'd been excited to show them. Didn't appreciate the original Eames chairs the seller had left behind. Didn't understand that I'd just purchased a piece of architectural history. That was 11 years ago. In that time I'd meticulously restored every inch of the property. Researched original materials. Tracked down period-appropriate fixtures. Hired specialists who understood mid-century preservation. Spent another $400,000 on the restoration alone, doing most of the project management myself while working full-time. I'd also built my career. Junior architect to senior architect to partner at one of LA's most prestigious firms. Specialized in historic preservation and sustainable design. Won awards. Got featured in Architectural Digest twice. My projects commanded premium fees. By 37, my annual income was $340,000. My net worth, including the beach house and investment portfolio, was around $8.2 million. My family still thought I was a struggling architect barely making rent. I never corrected them. Vanessa lived in Orange County with her husband Derek, a pharmaceutical sales rep. They had a nice house in a planned community. 3 kids. A boat they took out twice a year. They made comfortable money, combined income around $180,000. And spent every dollar of it maintaining their lifestyle. To them, I was the quirky sister who'd made bad choices. Never married. No kids. Living in that beach shack they'd seen once over a decade ago. They assumed I was house poor and career struggling. I let them assume. The truth was more complicated. After the restoration, my beach house had been appraised at $5.8 million. The property had become a documented example of mid-century preservation. Architecture students toured it. Design magazines featured it. I'd been offered $6.2 million for it twice. Turned down both offers. It wasn't just a house. It was my masterwork. My sanctuary. My proof that beautiful things were worth preserving. I'd also gotten smart about protection. After my neighbor's property got tangled in a family dispute, I'd moved all my assets into an LLC structure. The beach house was owned by Coastal Preservation Holdings, LLC. My name appeared nowhere on public records. Property tax bills went to my business manager. Everything ran through corporate entities. My family had no idea. The property had been sitting empty for the past 6 months while I worked on a major project in San Francisco. A historic renovation of a 1920s hotel that was taking all my time. I'd been staying in SF during the week, only coming back to LA on occasional weekends. I'd hired a property manager, Elena, to handle maintenance and security. She checked on the house twice weekly, managed the gardeners and cleaners, handled any issues. The house was in perfect condition, just temporarily unoccupied. Then I got Vanessa's text. I was in a client meeting in San Francisco when my phone buzzed. I glanced at it during a break. "Vanessa, Sold your beach shack for $200,000. You need the money. I stared at the message. Read it twice. 3 times. Before I could respond, Mom chimed in on the family group chat. Mom, good decision, it's falling apart anyway. Maybe now you can afford a real place. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. A dozen responses came to mind. Instead I typed, okay. That was at 2:47 p.m. At 3:03 p.m. Elena called. Ms. Rivera, we have a serious situation. I just received a call from a title company about a pending sale of the Malibu property. They're requesting documentation for a $200,000 transaction scheduled to close next week. My blood went cold. What transaction? Apparently someone claiming to be you has entered into a purchase agreement with a buyer. They've provided identification and are moving forward with the sale. The title company called me because they couldn't verify ownership. The LLC structure flagged in their system. Who's the seller? According to the title company, a woman named Vanessa Morrison presented herself as your representative with power of attorney. She claims you're overseas and unable to handle the transaction yourself. Vanessa Morrison. My sister's married name. Elena, I need you to do something for me immediately. Anything. Contact the title company. Inform them that any sale documentation is fraudulent. The property is not for sale and I have authorized no representatives. Then call our real estate attorney. This is attempted theft. I'm on it. Ms. Rivera, how did she even know about the property specifics? Good question. I hung up and called Vanessa. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright. Rachel, did you get my message? I know it seems fast, but Derek has a friend who's a real estate agent, and when I told him about your place, he said he had a buyer immediately. Cash offer, quick close. I figured you'd be relieved. How did you access the property? What do you mean? I still have the key you gave me years ago, remember? When you first bought it and wanted someone to check on it while you were working those crazy hours. I did remember. I'd completely forgotten about that key. Walk me through this, I said calmly. You took a buyer through my house? Well, yeah. Derek's friend brought his client last week. I met them there, showed them around. Rachel, I have to be honest. The place is worse than I remembered. Nothing's been updated. Still has all that weird old furniture and those outdated light fixtures. But the buyer loves the location and plans to tear it down and build new. He was willing to pay $200,000 for the teardown value and land. The teardown value and land, I repeated. Right. I mean, I know it's not much, but given the condition and the fact that you obviously can't afford to maintain it properly. What made you think you could sell my property? Oh, come on. I helped you. You've been struggling with this place for years. The property taxes alone must be killing you. I figured I'd spare you the embarrassment of having to list it and admit you couldn't afford it anymore. Did you sign any documents? Just the purchase agreement. Derek's friend walked me through it. We need your signature on the final paperwork by Friday. I told them you'd be grateful. I was still speaking calmly. Years of client meetings had taught me to control my voice even when everything inside was screaming. Vanessa, I need to be very clear. You don't have the authority to sell my property. Rachel, don't be stubborn. $200,000 is good money for that place. Take it and buy yourself a nice condo somewhere. Something you can actually afford to maintain. What did you tell the buyer about the property condition? The truth. That it's a 1960s fixer-upper that hasn't been touched in decades. Original everything, all outdated. Needs complete renovation or tear down. The buyer's excited about the lot value. And what did you sign as? What do you mean? On the purchase agreement. What did you sign as? Your representative. Derek's friend said it was fine as long as we had your approval, which obviously you're giving now. I'm not giving approval. Silence. What? I'm not approving this sale. In fact, I'm informing you that you've just committed several felonies. Fraud, forgery, and attempted theft. Rachel, stop being dramatic. The property is worth $5.8 million. You tried to sell it for $200,000. That's theft. She laughed. That dump is not worth $5.8 million. Are you insane? The property was appraised at $5.8 million 14 months ago. I have documentation. It's a fully restored mid-century modern with documented architectural significance. It's been featured in Architectural Digest twice. I've turned down offers of $6.2 million. The line went quiet. You're lying. I'm not. And you've just attempted to illegally sell a multi-million-dollar property for $200,000. I'm contacting law enforcement. You can't. I was helping you. You were stealing from me. There's a difference. I hung up. My phone immediately started ringing. Vanessa, then Mom, then Dad, then Derek. I declined all the calls and contacted my attorney. By 6 p.m. that evening, everything was in motion. The title company had been notified. The purchase agreement was voided. The buyer, who genuinely thought he was getting a teardown lot, was furious when he learned the actual value. Derek's real estate agent friend was facing license suspension for facilitating what he should have recognized as a fraudulent transaction. And my attorney had filed a police report for attempted theft and fraud. My phone continued buzzing. Family group chat exploding. Voicemails piling up. I ignored all of it and focused on documenting everything for law enforcement. That night, I drove back to LA. Arrived at the beach house around midnight. Elena had arranged for a locksmith to change all the locks and install a security system upgrade. The house was exactly as I'd left it. Perfectly restored. Every detail immaculate. The vintage Noguchi lamps casting warm light across original terrazzo floors. The Eames chairs positioned to catch the ocean view. Glass walls overlooking private beach access worth millions by itself. This wasn't a shack. This was a documented masterpiece. And my sister had tried to sell it for $200,000. I slept in my own bed that night for the first time in weeks. Woke up to sunrise over the Pacific. Made coffee in my restored vintage kitchen. At 9 a.m. my attorney called. Rachel, the police want statements from everyone involved. Your sister is claiming she thought she had your permission. The buyer is threatening to sue everyone. And, this is important, your sister apparently showed the buyer a different property interior. What do you mean? The buyer described a rundown house with water damage, broken fixtures and structural issues. That's not what's in your property photos. She apparently took him through when it was dark, pointed out every flaw she could invent, and convinced him he was buying a teardown. So she committed fraud against the buyer too. Exactly. He's now an ally in the criminal case. He was defrauded as well. At 11 a.m., 2 detectives arrived at my house to take my statement. They walked through slowly, taking in every detail. The preserved architecture. The museum-quality furnishings. The clear evidence of professional restoration. Ms. Rivera, one detective said. This property is extraordinary. How did your sister think she could sell this for $200,000? She thought it was worthless, I said simply. She saw it once 11 years ago before restoration. He never came back. She assumed it was still a rundown shack. But didn't she see the interior when she brought the buyer through? According to my attorney, she brought him at dusk, used minimal lighting and apparently lied about structural damage and code violations. The buyer thought he was buying a teardown lot. She defrauded him as thoroughly as she tried to defraud me. The detectives documented everything. Took photos. Reviewed my ownership documentation and appraisals. This is one of the more clear-cut fraud cases I've seen, the second detective said. Attempted theft of a $5.8 million asset, fraudulent representation, forged authorization. She's looking at serious charges. After they left, I finally checked my family messages. 93 unread texts. Vanessa, you're overreacting, Vanessa. I was trying to help, Vanessa. You can't seriously press charges against your own sister, Vanessa. We're family. Mom, Rachel, call off the police, Mom. Vanessa made a mistake, Mom. She didn't know, Mom. You're being vindictive. Dad, this is getting out of hand. Dad, just accept the $200,000 and move on. Dad, why are you doing this to your sister? Derek, you've ruined our lives, Derek. Vanessa is being investigated by the police, Derek. All because you can't take help when it's offered. I read through all of them. Then I composed a single response to the family group chat. I'll address this once. Vanessa attempted to sell my property, worth $5.8 million, for $200,000 without my knowledge or consent. She forged authorization documents. She defrauded a buyer by misrepresenting the property condition. These are felonies. The legal process will continue. Don't contact me again about this. Mom called immediately. I declined. She called again. I declined. Text from Mom. At least tell us why you lied about the house being worthless. I responded, I never said it was worthless. You assumed. You saw it once 11 years ago before restoration. You never visited again. Never asked about it. Never showed any interest in my life or career. You assumed I was struggling because that fit your narrative. I built a career, restored a property, and achieved significant success. You just never bothered to notice. Vanessa, you let us think you were poor. Me, you wanted to think I was poor. Made you feel superior. I never confirmed or denied anything. You simply never asked. Dad, what are you, some kind of millionaire? I didn't respond to that one. Over the next week, the situation escalated. The buyer filed a civil suit against Vanessa and Derek's real estate agent friend for fraud. The real estate agent was suspended pending investigation. The title company flagged Derek's friend for multiple questionable transactions. The DA's office reviewed the case and decided to prosecute. Vanessa was charged with attempted grand theft, fraud, and forgery. Derek was investigated as a potential accomplice. His involvement in arranging the deal raised questions. My family's response was to blame me. Group chat messages I didn't respond to but couldn't help reading. Mom, you're sending your sister to prison. Dad, family doesn't do this to family. Vanessa, I have 3 kids. Rachel, how can you do this to them? Derek, we're going to lose everything because of your vindictiveness. My phone rang at odd hours. Unknown numbers. Probably relatives calling to tell me I was wrong. I blocked them all. One voicemail got through before I blocked the number. Aunt Carol, Mom's sister. Rachel, I don't know what's gotten into you. Vanessa made a mistake, sure, but prosecuting her? Making her lose everything? That's not the Rachel I know. Used to be sweet. Now you're cold and vindictive. Maybe money changed you. Maybe that fancy house made you forget where you came from. But family is supposed to matter more than property. Think about what you're doing. I saved the voicemail. Played it for my therapist the next week. What do you notice about the message? She asked. They think I'm the problem. What else? They think I changed. Became cold. But I'm just responding to theft. Do you think you've changed? I considered it. I think I stopped accepting their version of me. The struggling little sister. The one who makes bad decisions. The one who needs their help and pity. I never was that person, but they needed me to be. And now they're confronted with reality. And they're angry at me for it. The legal process continued. Vanessa hired an attorney who tried to argue she'd made an honest mistake. The evidence was overwhelming. Photos proved the property's condition. Appraisal documents proved the value. Testimony from the defrauded buyer proved the misrepresentation. Digital communications proved premeditation. 3 weeks after Vanessa's text, I got a call from the prosecutor. Ms. Rivera, Vanessa's attorney, is requesting a meeting. They want to discuss a potential resolution outside of criminal prosecution. What kind of resolution? Restitution. Apology. Admission of wrongdoing. In exchange, they're hoping you'll agree to request reduced charges. What do you recommend? Honestly, the evidence is solid. We can prosecute successfully. But if you're interested in preserving any family relationship, a negotiated resolution might achieve justice while avoiding a trial. I thought about it. Set up the meeting. The meeting took place in my attorney's conference room. Vanessa, Derek, their attorney. My attorney. The prosecutor observing. Vanessa looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back messily. None of her usual polished appearance. Her attorney spoke first. My client deeply regrets her actions. She acknowledges that she made serious errors in judgment. She's prepared to offer a formal written apology and discuss restitution terms. Let's hear the apology, my attorney said. Vanessa's attorney nodded to her. Vanessa looked at me, eyes red. Rachel, I'm sorry. Thought I was helping. I know now that I wasn't. I was wrong to access your property, wrong to engage with a buyer, wrong to sign any documents. I violated your trust and your property rights. I'm sorry for the damage this has caused. It sounded rehearsed. Probably was. But she'd said the words. And the restitution? My attorney asked. My client is prepared to pay $50,000 over 5 years as symbolic restitution for. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. The actual damages exceed $50,000. Legal fees alone are over $30,000. The property was temporarily encumbered by a fraudulent claim, which delayed a legitimate rental opportunity worth $15,000 monthly. The emotional distress, the violation of privacy, the attempted theft of a $5.8 million asset. $50,000 over 5 years is insulting. Vanessa's attorney shifted. Ms. Rivera, my client doesn't have significant liquid assets. The $50,000 represents a genuine financial hardship. She tried to sell my house for $200,000. If she'd succeeded in stealing it, she would have profited. Now she can pay the actual cost of her crime. What are you asking for? The prosecutor asked. I'd thought about this carefully. Discussed it with my attorney and therapist. Full restitution of $150,000 for actual damages, legal fees, lost rental income, security upgrades, and emotional distress. Payment schedule of $3,000 monthly until paid in full. Written admission of all criminal conduct. 5 years of probation with the condition that she has no contact with me or my property. Any violation of probation triggers immediate criminal prosecution with recommendation of maximum sentencing. Vanessa started crying. I don't have $3,000 a month. We have 3 kids, a mortgage. You have a boat, I said calmly. Sell it. You have country club membership. Cancel it. You have car payments on luxury vehicles. Downgrade. You attempted to steal $5.8 million from me. You can figure out how to pay $150,000. Derek spoke for the first time. This is vindictive. You're destroying our family's future. You tried to destroy mine, I said. You just didn't think I had a future worth destroying. The room went silent. Vanessa's attorney requested a recess to consult with his clients. They returned 40 minutes later and accepted the terms. Over the next 2 months, contracts were signed. Payments began. Vanessa and Derek sold their boat. Turned out it was worth $85,000. Derek took on overtime. Vanessa got a part-time job. They canceled their country club membership, downsized one of their cars, cut back on expenses. The $3,000 monthly payments started arriving. On time. Every month. I didn't spend the money. I set up a trust fund for Vanessa's 3 kids. My nieces and nephew I rarely saw. They'd get access when they turned 25. Maybe it would help them someday. But Vanessa and Derek didn't need to know that. 3 months after the resolution, I got a message from an unknown number. Just a photo. My beach house. Taken from the public beach access, showing the stunning architecture, the pristine restoration, the obvious luxury of the property. The message: saw this in Architectural Digest. Finally understand what you built. I'm sorry we never saw you. It was from Dad. I didn't respond. A week later, a letter arrived. Handwritten from Mom. Rachel, I've been thinking about what you said. That we never asked. That we assumed. You're right. We never visited after that first time. Never asked about your career. Never showed interest in your life. We wrote the story we wanted, that you were struggling, and never questioned if it was true. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know I see now what we missed. And I'm sorry. I read the letter 3 times. Folded it carefully. Put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe not. The truth was I'd built a beautiful life. Career I loved. A home that was a work of art. Financial security. Professional respect. Peace. I didn't need my family's validation anymore. I'd proven something more important. I could preserve beautiful things. Architecture. Integrity. Self-worth. And some things, once restored, couldn't be diminished by anyone's assumptions. 6 months later, I sat on my deck watching sunset over the Pacific. The house glowed in the golden light, every restored detail perfect, every preservation choice vindicated. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena, my property manager. FY, just declined another purchase offer. $6.8 million. Should I add them to the list? I smiled and typed back, add them to the list. This house isn't for sale. Not for $6.8 million. Not for any amount. Some things you build aren't about money. They're about proving to yourself what you're capable of creating. And I'd created something extraordinary. Not despite my family's dismissal. Not to prove them wrong. But because I knew my own worth. And that was something no one could sell. Not even for $5.8 million.